Now we got OVW. Now we got NXT. Looking at NXT or 2.0 now, but looking at what Triple H has done with NXT and WWE now, and then looking at OVW then, do you see any similarities? Or if, say, you were a promoter today, right? Or say you had your own company, which style, and I guess it's kind of a double-ended question, but would you prefer the OVW way of doing things, or do you think, they're on to something with this new NXT? Because when it was a black and gold brand, everybody kind of felt like, okay, you know what, when WWE was getting stale, NXT kind of had that hardcore wrestling. It's like you said with sci-fi, right? It had that hardcore wrestling with kind of like a little bit of that mainstream polish, but it had a different feel. Now everything kind of feels the same when it comes to WWE. Do you think that is done necessarily on purpose by design, or is this a sign of the times changing?
Well, you threw about 5 different questions at me, so I'll try to get to that and break it down. One is OVW and NXT, certainly the black and gold. Even now, when you talk about just the mechanics of the product behind the scenes, not the television presentation, but what they're doing and what Triple H has done with it. It is basically the prototype of what OVW was. It is OVW at its core. What Triple H did was took the money that they weren't willing to put in OVW because it wasn't owned by them. It was contracted by them. OVW was Danny Davis's and Jim Cornette's baby. So it was they contracted OVW as their official developmental company. They didn't own it. So what they did, and they were trying to do when they created Deep South, same thing. They did not get what they wanted until they got down to Orlando, Florida, got the building, and now we're going to do the same exact thing, except we're going to give it a massive upgrade. We got this huge facility. We're going to dump all this money into it, and gosh, they've done a great job with that. And Triple H and Vince and all the visionaries behind it. When they say bigger, better, stronger, well, that's basically what it is. It's like OVW on steroids, and it just took it and made it something gigantic to what it is today. When you talk about the product, black and gold versus NXT 2.0, the product of black and gold, it was really more similar to OVW with the darkness, the grittiness, the way that the wrestling was more likened to something that we were accustomed to when we grew up on versus more of the flash and sizzle that we're seeing right now with NXT 2.0. But to their credit, what NXT 2.0 is literally almost a carbon copy on a smaller scale of what the WWE is doing on the bigger scale with Raw and SmackDown and all the other stuff. So for that, I find no fault, because it will be, as you mentioned earlier, an easier transition and not a culture shock once they leave from NXT 2.0. It's just an easy transition onto the main roster, other than the fact that they take the individuals off of 2.0 and bring them over to whatever brand and give them a complete makeover. Hey, guys, both of these products are on the same station. It's called USA Network. You've invested all this money. You invested all this money and time in developing Mr. Franchise here, and you bring Franchise to the main roster, and we're going to give him a complete makeover. And a complete makeover